Welcome to Find Your Strong, the podcast that's here to help you free yourself from food rules, fitness guilt, and those weird detox teas.
Oh, do not get me started, Ella.
All right, I won't. I'm Ella, nutritionist and intuitive eating counselor.
And I'm Christine, personal trainer, intuitive eating counselor, and your hype woman for joyful movement.
You are, woohoo! Together we talk to experts, share stories, and hopefully leave you feeling a bit more at home in your body.
So if you're ready, let's find your strong. Hello, hello, hello. How are you? We are here for another episode. I was going to say solo, but it's not solo because we're both here.
We're a duo, aren't we?
But we've got a topic. We were thinking about what to talk about today. I've got so much to talk about. It's going to be infinity number of podcasts. But I've been really thinking about movement and food in terms of being hard. So doing things that are hard, otherwise there's no point. And this was prompted by my lovely husband suggesting we go for a run on Saturday. And I said, oh, where should we go? And he said, I'm looking for a new run that's going to be hell. And on his last run, he almost cried about 5 times because it was so hard.
Wow.
I've kind of got to the point where I'm like, I don't mind challenging myself. I really like a challenge in a workout, but I also want on a weekend to do a nice plod. I want to run. I want to kind of take breaks. I want to go for a coffee. I don't want to be doing 8 miles uphill crying.
Why ever not, Christine?
I know, but it's I think we're really conditioned in this culture to think that unless it's awful, there's no point. Unless we are struggling, unless we are starving ourselves in terms of food or eating stuff that we don't really like because it's in inverted commas healthy, then there's no point. I think that's a real thing. And many of my clients actually say if I give them an exercise and they start doing it, the amount of times that I've heard, where is this supposed to hurt? What? It's not supposed to hurt. And if they don't feel this is awful, they don't feel like it's working.
Wow. I've never really thought about it in those terms. I often ask whenever I get instructions, I always ask, where am I supposed to feel this? And then I describe the muscle that I'm feeling that's working and checking whether I'm doing it right. But I've never even... See, this shows you how I exercise, because as soon as it becomes punishing, I'm out. I'm like, no, I can't be doing with it. It's too hard. I told you the story once that I fake limped out of a spin class, did I?
Yeah, you did, but
Yeah.
that's awful. Ella.
Yeah, because it was just so hard and I needed an excuse to get out. I don't do that hard. I'm very happy to go like the highest level, but as soon as it becomes too hard, I'm like, bye, see ya. So I
Wow.
find that very curious that people ask you, where's it supposed to hurt? That wouldn't have crossed my mind
Yeah.
at all. Wow.
It's I find it now because I think I've deconditioned myself, if that's a word. I'm just doing this boxing now, which is brilliant. But on Tuesday I went and she works me hard. I mean, really. But I got to like she's working me so hard that I am sweating like a lot profusely. I haven't sweated like that for years. To the
Wow.
point that it makes me a bit, I'm like, oh, this is quite weird. Because I think I've not maybe worked that hard for years since I got into this whole sort of different way of thinking around it. I've gone for long runs, I've done boot camps, I've done all of the stuff, but I don't push it anymore because I don't to the same degree. Because it's not for me, that's not what counts. That's not what makes a good workout.
But do you still
mean?
enjoy the boxing? What sort of keeps you at it, and how does that feel in comparison to all of the other workouts that you do?
I
Because it is
love this.
different.
We're talking about duality. I love the fact that I find it really hard.
Okay.
It's for me, it's good cognitively because it is all, she's very good. You got to jab, cross, kick with left, with right. You got to change your footing. It's very much, you've got to be on it, on the ball mentally. And it's good to get some anger out, which I have
Yeah.
a lot of, it seems. Uh, and I love it because I see improvements as well, and that's important
Hmm.
in terms of that keeping going to something. It's like
Yeah.
for me, maybe that's ADHD brain. How, but for you, in terms of your boot camp, what keeps you going to boot camp? Is it the camaraderie? Is it the people? Is it the
Yeah, I mean the
exercise?
people are great. There's a lot of swearing, which is always fun. I love it because it's outside. I'm not someone who
Mm,
likes to exercise indoors, really. So that really it got me on a rainy day. I thought, okay, I've got to do something like that because I love that idea. Um, it is hard, but it is. Yeah, I like what you said about the duality. So something can be hard and still be enjoyable.
yes. Yeah.
Whereas when you said about your husband, I need to find a sort of a hellish run. I'm trying to find the enjoyment in that because obviously he's allowed to like it because it is really hard and challenging. But is there something else as well for him? Is it the challenge? Is it that, oh, afterwards, like, look, what I've done, look what I've achieved? Is it the achievement about it? Or what is it? Because when people say, oh, where's it supposed to hurt? Maybe they have something else, that a secondary gain there as well. It's not just about the hurting. Maybe they are allowed to enjoy it even though it's hurting. Does that make sense?
I do. Yep. That is, I think that's the line that's blurred though, isn't it?
Mm,
Because when people think about exercise, a lot of people, I just use the term people, like you can't sort of
mhm.
generalize like that, but you do think, oh, it's a chore, it should be hard, it should,
Yeah,
I lots of people don't like exercise because
yeah.
of what they think it means or
Mm.
what they think it looks like.
Yeah,
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 for Ed, his rationale was he's not going to be able to push it like this forever. So maybe he wants to see what his body can do.
yeah,
I get that.
yeah,
I get that.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Do it while you
but
can.
do it while you can. And I
Right.
do, there's a part of me that can totally, I can understand that. That resonates with me.
Mm,
But I no longer want to push it the way I used to. So I have
mm.
limits. My bar is lower now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't need to run a 5K in 21 minutes. I don't need
Right.
to. I would much prefer to run it with somebody and have a chat and get a coffee.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it sounds there's a lot about proving to yourself or maybe to others for some people that you can, but also that you've come to a place where you don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore, and you're just doing it because you enjoy it rather than because you want to say, oh, check me out, I've done X number of drop kicks and sweated so much and worked really hard. It's not something
Yeah,
that you
and
need to
yeah,
prove to yourself. It's about it is hard, yes, but I don't have to prove to myself that I can do it. Is that right?
yeah, and there's something about, people sort of see me as a runner,
Mm,
and I used to do all the races and be fairly speedy, I guess, for me.
mm,
So people always used to go, "Oh, what's your time? What was your time? What was your
mm.
time? What was?" And I think I just got fed up with that. I got fed up of Strava and the apps and people
Yeah,
going, "Oh, well done. It was fast. That was a fast split." Or you did. I don't want to be judged on that anymore.
right.
There's nothing wrong with enjoying and embracing
Mm,
those things.
mm,
Nothing wrong at all. But I find I couldn't separate that from my history of eating disorders and
yeah.
how I used to punish myself with exercise. So it feels very
Yeah.
tied in with that. So
Yeah.
the boxing, nobody gives a crap about the boxing in terms of they have no point of reference.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it to win a fight. I'm not going to enter any fight. I'm just doing it because I enjoy it and I enjoy getting a bit more flexible and feeling a bit
Mm,
stronger.
mm,
So there's no specific goal that I'm
mm,
heading towards.
mm.
I just enjoy working hard and feeling better.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you? When you finish boot camp, there
Yeah.
must be, now you go to a boot camp, there must be some sessions that you really work hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. I would say generally, and this is a general attitude for me personally, but I'm not saying it's better or worse than another attitude. If I show up, I show up. If I feel like I'm only gonna give 50% today because I'm not feeling it, then I am thinking, well, maybe I should rest today. Maybe today is not the day for me to do that kind of exercise. Maybe I should do something else. Generally, when I go, I I work hard because I feel
Mhm.
like I'm here. I can, so I will. If when I'm there things are too hard, I stop or I reduce or I amend, I do something different. And our trainer is just, she's brilliant. She's like, you do what works for you. She's encouraging, but she would never sort of insist on, well, you do that exercise. For example, I will not do a burpee. I do not do burpees, full stop. I'm having that on my tombstone. She never did a burpee because I hate the bloody fuckers. And also, they make me dizzy and they're bloody hard. And I just don't like them and my back doesn't like them. So I will not do that. So I'll do something else instead. Maybe something that isn't as hard. Maybe something that isn't as punishing for me personally. Other people love them, but I just really don't. So I tend to, when I show up, I tend to show up, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And that's not just when I exercise. That is if I do a podcast recording with you, I do a podcast recording with you. I'm not half-assed sitting on my sofa listening to you say something. I'm engaged. And
Yeah.
I think that's a general thing that if I make the effort to do something and show up, then I'm going to be there. I'm not half-assing.
This is interesting. So I love burpees.
I thought you might.
I do. I really do. I quite like them because I like a press up and I like all that
Oh,
upper
yeah, see, I don't
focus.
like those either.
I love it, love it. Um, but yes, I have the opposite view. So Matthew McConaughey had this like motivational speech. I don't know
Mm.
what I'm talking about, Matthew McConaughey, but
Oh,
um,
he's nice.
I mean, yeah, I think he's all right. Um,
Hmm.
he said, "You don't do anything. You don't. He doesn't half-ass anything in his life.
Right,
You're going to do it. You give it 100%.
right.
You know, it's all that." And I disagree.
Mm.
I disagree. So my whole rhetoric, in fact, to my clients who are doing strength training with
Mm-hmm.
me is show up.
Mm-hmm.
Show up
Mm-hmm.
on the days that you don't have energy.
Mm-hmm.
Give it only as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
On the days that you have more energy, give it more.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I mean, for me, I would probably rarely do anything if I just went on how I was feeling in terms of, yeah, I'm
Mm.
not really up
Mm.
for it today.
Mm.
Very different if you're ill,
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't slept, or
Mm-hmm.
you've got to make sure your bases are covered.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I'm not going to feel like it probably 50% of the time, to be
Mm-hmm.
frank.
Mm-hmm.
But I show up and I
Mm-hmm.
give it what I can on those days.
Mm-hmm.
And just so that I've got that, so that because strength training for me is my base of doing anything else. And it's also so that I can be independent, longevity, all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about 2 times 25 minutes a week. I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about hours and hours in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I will show up to that.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm ill. Last week I was ill, so I didn't. But
Mm-hmm.
I always encourage people, especially during the times of COVID, when people needed that social connection, even online,
Mm-hmm.
to keep showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Have join that community,
Mm-hmm.
keep being part of it, do what you can, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't progress takes all different kinds of ways. But if
Yeah.
you only show up when you feel like, yeah, I would hardly ever be there.
Oh yeah, I just
I
to jump
mean,
in there, yeah, I don't only show up when I feel like that because I don't feel like that all the time. What I mean
yeah,
is that if I make the decision to show up, I'm going to try my hardest to actually do something with that time
yeah,
that I have allocated to that whatever it is that I'm showing up to. Does that make sense? So I
it does.
completely hear you. And I think do what you can and showing up is absolutely key. But also I think sometimes when we made the decision to show up, we can maybe use that momentum to actually do something with that time. We are allocating that time. We're spending that time on something. Showing up is fantastic. That's the first step for sure. Um, but use that time and make it work for you in some way. And yeah, I totally get that. If you don't feel 100% and you don't want to give 100%, then don't give 100%, but you're working within your bandwidth and you're working up to
Yeah.
that bandwidth. And I think that's what I was trying to say, that I will do that, but if it gets too far, I'm not going to push myself and punish myself.
Yeah.
So
That's, yeah.
so it's kind of like a bit of what you said and a bit of what I think I might have.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had a client today, just as an example, and I mean, it's obviously if you're privileged enough to be able to afford a personal trainer, that's great, and you can do this with a personal trainer. But she was not feeling amazing, but still wanted to
Mm,
do something. She said,
mm,
I almost cancelled.
mm,
And I thought, right, I don't think I should be doing heavy weights with this client. I think
mhm,
she just about showed up.
mhm,
So let's focus on something really slow and something
mhm,
that she quite likes. And so we did balance and we took
mhm,
it down a notch. We did body weight only. We
mhm,
made it fun.
mhm.
And then we got close to the ground. So it was a bit easier. You feel supported, all of
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Because on those days, there is no point in putting a really heavy kettlebell in
No.
somebody's hand and asking them to do muscle ups for,
Yeah,
20 minutes. It's just not going to serve anybody.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
absolutely.
But I
Yeah.
like the fact that she showed up
Mhm,
and did something.
mhm,
She's moved her body and we've
mhm,
had a nice chat and she's keeping that sort of promise to herself,
mhm,
like I'm going to do this twice a week,
mhm.
and um,
And it's
so
probably
it's
made
it's an
her feel
interesting
better
one.
because she did what was within her bandwidth. She showed up, she did what
Yes,
was kind of achievable for her and manageable for her. And you very aptly sort of worked out, well, today we're going to sort of tweak it and do something slightly different and something that is sort of according to what you can do today. And I
yeah,
think that's what I mean. She showed up. That's the massive step, right? She showed up. Showing up and just sitting there is pointless. You might as well not bother. But doing something that works within your remit and your bandwidth, I keep using that word, sorry. But you know what I mean. Once you
yeah.
showed up, you might
Within your
as well do
capacity,
something.
maybe.
Your capacity. Once you showed
Mm.
up, you might as well do something with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
yeah,
I felt really bad, I wouldn't show up. I would just rest.
yeah,
I would make that decision. I
yeah.
made the decision to show up. Therefore, let's see what I can do with that
100%.
time. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
Mm,
I do see what you mean. And
mm.
I think it only becomes problematic if you are ill and you are still trying to keep going and
Yes.
keep doing the
Yes.
workouts and keep,
Yes.
or you've had no sleep, but you still get up and force yourself to kind of when you've got
Yeah.
nothing in the tank. I
Yeah.
think you've got to check in with yourself,
Mm,
So I
absolutely.
think absolutely show up. If you don't feel like it, show
Mm.
up and do
Mm-hmm.
what you can. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not well, no,
Don't.
no, no. Stay
No.
in bed. Take care of
Yeah.
yourself. Rest, drink fluids, do nothing,
Yeah.
or lie on the floor and meditate or whatever is going
Mm,
to make you feel a little bit better.
mm,
But yeah, if a client says to me, I've got a temperature, I've had some paracetamol, I'm going to come anyway, I'm going to be
mm.
like, no, you're not.
No, don't. Don't do
You're
it.
going to stay home in bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think that's when it becomes problematic. And we'll
Mm.
talk about the food side of it as well,
Mm.
because I do notice a pattern with so many people that I work with or have worked with historically that they will push themselves to a point that they are burnt out and then
Mm.
they get ill because exercise is a stressor on the
Mm.
body.
Mm.
But as soon as they get well again, they go back into that cycle because that's how they associate movement, exercise.
Mm.
So it is how do we break out of that, Ella? It's a hard one,
Mm.
isn't it? I mean, look at
Yeah.
PE in school. Goodness,
Yeah.
most of us have been turned off movement through PE.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Oh God, it's hard.
we've had bad experiences in PE, or we've had experiences where we've not felt athletic, we've not felt sporty, we've been made to feel maybe our body didn't quite fit the
Mm.
mold
Mm.
for PE. I'm
Mm.
doing all inverted commas. And maybe that's impacted how we view exercise going forward. I don't know.
Yeah. It's probably got a big role to play, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
I haven't got a recipe to how to break out from that kind of mindset, but I think it's about learning that exercise is not it's not a very efficient and shouldn't really be a tool for controlling your
Weight
body
loss.
in in a sort of
Yeah.
weight related way, and finding a way of moving that is enjoyable and not punishing. It can be hard, but if it's a punishment, then there's something going on underneath that you might want to address. Because you need to ask yourself, why do I want to punish myself? What is my gain from doing that?
Yeah.
And
If you
what
take
is sort of underlying it?
Yeah, if you take aesthetics out of the
Mm,
question, then how would you move? I always ask that
mm,
question.
mm,
If movement did nothing, zero for your body in any
mm,
way, in
mm,
terms of the aesthetics,
mm,
would you still
mm.
move as you're moving?
Yeah.
Um,
And what do
and I
people
think
say when you ask that? I'm interested.
mostly no, they wouldn't. Some people,
Right.
yes, they would,
Yeah.
because for their mental health, it's so
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people are doing exercise that they believe is good for them in terms of physique
Mm-hmm.
and weight loss, which
Mm-hmm.
we've just debunked. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
really exercise. You cannot guarantee weight loss through exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our bodies are changing and fluctuating throughout life.
Yeah.
And how we exercise changes, how our bodies respond to exercise
Mm.
changes. So it's not something that you can rely on.
Yeah.
And if any man is on your screen saying, I need 10 menopausal women from Brighton and Hove for no, say
Mm-mm.
no. Have you
Mm-mm.
put on weight? So, no. So if there's anybody trying to sell you weight loss through an exercise program, walk away.
Not
Sorry,
gonna happen. No.
just had to get that on. But can we talk about it from in terms of movement and trying to sort of reframe how we
Mm.
feel about movement, I
Mm.
would just ask yourself that question. That's what I would say to all clients.
Mm.
First of all, would you move in the same way if it wasn't about your body?
Mm.
Second of all, how do you want to feel when you
Mm-hmm.
move? Do you want to feel
Mm-hmm.
more flexible? Do you want to
Mm.
feel stronger? Do you want to feel just a bit more energy? Those kind of questions are really
Yeah.
good questions rather than
Yeah.
how do you want to look because
Yeah.
of the way you move. That's not something that is actually possible to
Yeah.
control.
Yeah. And you can take
Does that make
exactly the same questions and transfer them to food, because you can ask those questions. How do you want to feel? Would you eat what you like if it didn't have any effect on your body shape or size? How would you like to feel when you eat? Right? All of those questions that you just asked, you can actually use when it comes to food as well. And then, if you ask a person, would you eat what you like if it didn't have any effect on your body? They would say, of course, I'd eat whatever I like. Because there's enjoyment in food that's often suppressed because we think we shouldn't be eating certain things. But if we
Yeah.
have, free reign, we would eat what we like, and we would probably be more likely to eat as and when and how much we need at the same time. Just like with movement, we would probably, if we tune into, how would we like to feel, we would probably move in a way that makes us feel energized, stronger, more flexible,
Yeah. And
because
yeah.
we feel it. And it's the same with food. If we feel how the food makes us feel, then it's more likely that we will eat according to that rather than to some external message. So yeah, I love those questions, and I think they translate beautifully to food as well.
And we talked to Bree Campos, and
Mm,
I find it a really interesting, quite tricky conversation about rest. And
mm,
her impression around creating that reframing how she felt about movement
mm,
and food actually, but she felt she had to give herself unconditional permission to rest.
mm,
Similarly to food, the first principle of intuitive eating is giving yourself unconditional permission to eat.
mm,
And that's really hard, isn't it?
mm. Yeah, loads of people get
That's
stuck on that because
mm,
there's this fear that if we do that, we will not stop. So if you give yourself unconditional permission to rest, there's this fear inside of, do you know what? A lot of people that I've worked with and a lot of people I speak to, there's this real fear of being perceived as lazy. And I think that is something to do with society. And I wonder whether
Yes.
part of people wanting to punish themselves with exercise is to kind of prove to themselves, look, I'm not lazy. Look at this. Look at what I can do. I'm working really hard. And I'm wondering whether that is a fear that's sort of been basically put into our brains from when we were little. You have to work hard, you have to achieve, you have to do all of those things. And if you
Yeah,
don't
you
do
are
that,
the
you're
sum of
lazy.
your achievements. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Who are
exactly.
you if you don't work your ass off and you
Yeah,
don't a high achiever? Who are you?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
I think that's definitely something that I'm exploring because I'm feeling very tired and burnt out at the minute. And I'm
Mm,
thinking maybe I could be a person that doesn't push yourself constantly and actually works in a way that
mm,
feels good. But
mm,
it's a conversation for a different time. And it is also, there's a
mm,
lot of privilege attached to that. You know,
mm.
if you can actually afford to take time out and think about how you're going to work, that's
Of
definitely
course.
something which we can talk about. But yeah,
Yeah.
I find that rest as well is something that, as Bree said, there's different types of rest, and that's something that I've made peace with. I struggle to rest. So
Mm,
for me, sitting on the sofa would not be restful for me because my brain is so busy.
mm.
All it would be doing is like, I better do the, it just would not be
Right.
good for me. I'd rather do something like gentle movement or go to the cinema or meet a friend or
Yeah.
I to me just resting, my mind goes beep.
Yeah.
Overthink. It's just too busy.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I need to find, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people. If you're neurodiverse in any way, it can be
Mm.
that it can be just that you need a different type of rest that doesn't look like somebody else's rest. Do you
Exactly.
know what I mean?
I was just going to say rest is it's very vague, isn't it? When we think of rest, we think of going to bed or sitting on the sofa. But for some
Yeah.
people, rest is a walk, just clearing
Yes.
their heads or actually spending 15 minutes eating their food rather than wolfing it down at the computer. Rest can look so differently and so for so many different people. And I'm a bit like you. I don't particularly enjoy resting, but I say for me, it's a little bit of a, I don't like resting in front of other people. So that's my own shit going on because I
Oh.
need to be seen as productive or doing stuff. So this is the thing, right? This is what I mean about this kind of perception of, or being worried about being perceived as lazy or not doing enough. And
What would it mean if somebody thought you weren't doing enough? What is
well,
enough?
it would
What is
mean nothing
enough?
because it's none of their business whether I'm doing enough or not. But
Well,
there's this.
so is it, but then who's judging you? You're judging you.
Oh yeah, exactly that. So there's a lot of I'm working through that, and I've kind of made peace with that to a certain degree. But if you asked me the question, could you just sit on the sofa for an afternoon and do nothing and just rest? The answer is probably no, because I would find that incredibly boring. But also part of the answer is, well, if I'm just on my own, it's more likely that I could than if someone else is around and seeing me do that. Does that make sense? So that is
Yeah.
something that I'm working through as a sort of um we make that as part of our identity. And I see that with a lot of clients. I mean, probably 95% of my clients have that fear of being perceived as not working hard enough, not being productive enough. And it's really hard to allow yourself and give
Mm.
yourself permission to rest. And I know that for myself it's hard, but I've got so much better at it. And I give myself those moments and I sit with the discomfort of those moments and I
Ooh.
challenge that. But it's something that you have to actively do when, if that is your mindset. Whereas it sounds like you sort of from a, your brain is so busy that it feels really not restful to sit and rest for you.
Yeah, I mean, I can watch TV because that's
Mm.
I'm focusing on something.
Yeah.
I love films. So
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing is going to cinema because I cannot do anything but sit in a chair and
Yeah.
watch the movie.
Yeah.
I cannot go do the housework and
Yeah.
go help the kids or go do some work or go. I can just sit there for 3 hours and watch the film. So
Yeah.
that is my happy place.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolute my happy place.
Yeah.
Um, so it's weird like that. I love
Mm.
TV, but generally now, the minute
Hmm.
I watch TV while I'm doing the dishes
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
while I'm hanging washing up or
Multitasking.
I'm not actually just watching TV. I don't remember the last time, unless I'm with the family and I feel like it's a lovely bonding thing. It's the
Yeah.
only time that I'll sit and watch
Yeah.
TV and not do anything else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's an interesting one. Sorry, I don't know how we've got onto TV and
I don't
but yeah,
know.
I was going to talk about fine. I know we're going to wrap it up. I was going to talk about eating in terms
Mm.
in a similar way to the movement as we just started to. There's a piece at the end of intuitive eating. So if you haven't read the intuitive eating book, I highly, highly recommend it. We're both intuitive eating counselors, and it is phenomenal. Um, it's gentle nutrition.
Mm.
And Evelyn and Elise, who are the co-creators of intuitive eating, they both sort of say you can do the principles in any order, but it is good to come to gentle nutrition after you've done the work. And I feel the same about movement. So I feel that you can build a gentle structure around your week in terms of strength training and blah, blah, blah. But I think you need to do the work first on reframing movement. And that might mean you need to take a step back from
Mm-hmm.
some of the activities that you're doing, which are not enjoyable,
Mm-hmm.
which you dread every week. So if you dread
Mm-hmm.
them occasionally and then you have a great time, brilliant. But if you're just, oh, I don't want to do this
Mm-hmm.
constantly,
Mm-hmm.
or if it is punishing, maybe take a step back and think about what do I actually want to do? Is there a form of movement I might like to try that might be
Mm-hmm.
fun or that might be. So I think there is a place for that gentle structure,
Yeah.
similarly to that gentle nutrition with food,
Yeah.
but you have to maybe do the work first. Does that sound?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
They're so interrelated, aren't they? Movement and our relationship with food. I think that's a really interesting point there, but because I think, yes, gentle nutrition kind of needs to come towards the end, not necessarily like now we can do it. We've done all of the other things because all of the other things are not ticked off the list. They are
Yes. Yeah.
processes that you probably
Processes.
have
Yeah.
to do and employ lifelong. But yeah, you're right. I think there needs to be a little bit of work done before you can use that gentle nutrition part without making it into a set of rules or a diet. And I
That's what I
wonder
meant.
whether that is with movement, whether that is the same thing. You're exploring patterns and you're looking at what patterns are no longer working for me, what patterns are actually harmful to me, what things might be serving me better. So you need to do that work first, trying lots of different things out, maybe trying different exercises, seeing what works for you, before you can come to that sort of, okay, well, I know how things feel for me, and therefore I'm basing my choice of what movement I want to engage in today on how I'm feeling today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I would say that's where where you feel like an intuitive eater when you get to a place where you can make that decision without any second guessing, guilt, shame, whatever, where you make the decision, well, today I feel like pizza, or today I feel like fruit salad, or today I feel like, well, that sort of thing, or at this moment in time, this is what feels good. And I think with movement, ideally you'd be in a place where you want to do that as well, wouldn't you? Where you feel like, today I want to do kickboxing because I'm angry and I need to punch somebody.
Yeah, yes, but also, I mean, a little bit of routine is not bad either.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
that's what I would say, but only, after a certain period of time. But this is obviously
Mm,
how long is a piece of string, and not everybody needs that full break away
yeah.
from movement. I definitely needed it.
Mm.
Um,
But doesn't, can I just ask you with the routine? Because when I start working with people, we often put a bit of a routine in place, and they're like, "Well, isn't intuitive eating to eat when and when I feel like it?" I'm like, "No, because initially it helps you to establish that regularity."
yeah.
So would you say it's the same for movement, or would you say the routine comes at the end? Because I feel like routine for me personally would be really helpful when it comes to
I mean,
movement.
it's very different for the food angle because literally need food to live, don't
Mm,
you? And most people are moving a little bit anyway in their daily life.
yeah,
It just depends on the person. Sometimes a
yeah,
step back from all
yeah,
of those activities that have just been feeling arduous and
yeah.
difficult, it is really helpful.
Mm,
And just sort of thinking, and you might not need long at all. For
mm,
some people, they don't need to step back. They can just think, right, I'm going to take it down a notch. I'm going to start doing a gentle yoga class, or I'm going to do
mhm,
something different. And
mhm,
you can kind of work in tandem with things.
mhm,
But it's just finding space to somehow see, do I enjoy this?
mhm,
Is this working for me? How do I feel when I don't do this? It's that,
mhm,
and being comfortable with the discomfort, sitting in the discomfort of
mm.
not working out every single day in a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yes.
got to a point if I missed my run, I couldn't cope with life.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's when you've got to go, hold on a second.
Yeah.
It is a coping mechanism. It's
Yeah.
great for mental health, but if it is the only and the prime one,
Yeah.
then it becomes not quite such a healthy pursuit,
Yeah. Oh,
maybe.
yeah. I totally agree with you. And I think that kind of brings us full circle back to the sort of all or nothing that we were talking about right at the beginning. Because if you learn to sit with that discomfort, you are basically in that murky area where it's not yes or no, black or white, one thing or the other, because you're allowing that discomfort to kind of be there and not push you one way or the other, because
Yeah,
it's just there and you are building tolerance to it. And I think that is so, so, so important, to
yeah.
allow ourselves to feel uncomfortable.
I know I have this lovely client who comes to my kettlebell class, and she took time off. And, you know, I think it was a whole term she took off. And it was exactly what she needed.
Mm,
She was just so tired and she was really struggling with it. And it wasn't serving her,
mm,
be pushing her body at that
mm,
point. And I was in awe of her. I just thought, wow, this is brilliant. She knows her body. She's very
mm,
much, I am giving myself permission to take this time off and not push it.
mm.
And then she came back and is really enjoying it. So for her, she just needed to step back. And I think that's something we maybe don't do enough. I don't want to
Yeah.
say you should. We don't need another should, but it is something that I could do more of.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we're so tending towards hustle culture, and I think we need
Mm,
to step back towards
mm.
relaxing culture.
Yeah. Well, that's also permission to rest, isn't
Yeah.
it? In a different way.
Yeah.
It's sort of just sitting, but resting from all of the stuff that we're doing all the time.
I know. But it's all I would say, Ella, is for anybody out there listening, is lower the bar and be a bit more compassionate. Be a bit more curious rather than judgmental of yourself, of
Mm,
your body, how you feel.
mm.
What are your parting words?
Now, parting words. I haven't prepared anything. Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there. Be compassionate and work, show up, which you said earlier. I think showing up is important. Use that motivation of having shown up and work within your bandwidth, and understand that it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. There's loads of different things that can be playing a role in your decision or your choices at any one time. And if something is hard, it doesn't have to be punishing. It
Yeah.
can still be enjoyable.
And don't listen to Matthew McConaughey.
No.
Oh, yeah, no, you can if you want. It's your, you have autonomy. Do what you want to do.
I
But
don't, I don't understand what he says most of the time, because his drawl is so strong. I'm
oh, I
like,
love his
I need,
voice.
I do, but I just need subtitles. But then I need subtitles for most things these days.
Yeah.
Just
probably
everyone
for me.
mumbles.
You understand me, which is quite
I
impressive.
understand you very well, yes. Now, I think it's
Mhm.
a lot of sort of mumbly kind of accents that I'm like, no idea, love. No idea what you just said. Mostly TV programs because everyone just sort of mumbles these days. So I have
Yeah.
everything with subtitles.
Yeah, I do that as well, which I
Mm.
should stop doing just because it's
Why?
easier, you know.
No. Why? You're reading. You're reading a book. There you go. You're welcome.
We've hit a new high. It's so anyway, thank you so much for joining us this week. We're not here, and I just want to sort of say this, we're not here to sit on a pedestal and tell you how to eat and move. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to start a different conversation
Mm,
and try to move the conversation away from weight loss and aesthetics and actually to how we feel in our bodies. So I think,
mm.
and we don't have all the answers, but it's good to talk, isn't it?
Might sound like we do, but we really don't. And
Really
I
good.
think we made it quite clear that we're working through our own stuff and trying
Yes.
to figure things out. And I think that's important to recognize that this is not a fix it all. It's like a process that you can use to work things out for yourself, really.
Yeah, and just getting a bit more curious rather than
Yeah,
judging yourself so harshly.
absolutely.
Lots of love to you all, and we will see you next week. We've got a cracking guest for you.
So excited.